John coming to you from Evolve Custom Rod Shops. I got a really cool video here for you. I'm making a cork and wood grip. First thing I'm doing is taking my block of wood and I'm marking the center point. This will help me align the center. Then what I'm going to do, just to make it easier to cut and hold in my chuck, I'm going to cut it on the bandsaw and cut the edges off. I'm using this clamp to actually hold it so I can just run it through the bandsaw safely without cutting my finger off. So what I'll do is, now it fits into my chuck. You could use the center that comes with this lathe, but I find that it doesn't work that well, and so I went and spent the money on a chuck. Now, the easiest way to start that is drill your hole. That way everything is based off the center of your rod, or everything's going to be even to this hole. If you've never drilled on your lathe before, it is the greatest thing since sliced bread. You just got to take your time with it. I'm constantly pulling it out, cleaning the bit, making sure everything's clean, and running stuff through there and make sure I got a good clean hole. And then my center lines up perfect to it. Now when I turn this, everything's going to be on that center point. I'm using a round nose file. It's the easiest to use. It's also one of the safest files to use. It's less likely to catch an edge, and with not necessarily with this lathe, but with certain lathes, you can actually hurt yourself pretty good. So I use a round nose file. It's very effective in what I'm doing. Now what I'm doing is checking the diameter of the grip that I'm basing my grip off of, which is a standard full Wells flag grip. Now I'm cutting the inlet because this is going to be at the base of my wood cork grip. So I'm using a Forstner bit to cut the inlet the right diameter for the reel seat. Same thing with drilling here is just take your time, make sure everything's locked down. Sometimes you have to slow down the speed of the lathe. That makes it a little bit easier. Sometimes speeding it up works. The big thing is I don't want to dull this bit. I don't want to overheat it, so just take your time, let it cool, let it do its thing. We're not drilling that far, so we don't need to worry about it. There you go. So now I'm checking everything, just make sure my depths are okay. Want to go a little bit further. Then I got my reel seat here to just check in there. Fits perfect. That's beautiful. So now that I have everything set, I'm going to double check my depth. What I'm doing now is I have my edging tool, and what this will do will actually allow me to take off to get the exact depth I want to be for my reel seat. It's okay if it's a little bit deeper than your reel seat. You just don't want it shorter. Perfect. I'm happy with that. Now what I'm trying to do is get it to the same diameter as a cork ring. And I'll just take my round nose file. Carbide cutters work really well too. They're very safe and simple to work with. I have a couple carbide cutters, but they're much bigger and don't work real well with the smaller lathe. You see it doesn't take time. Now I've sped this video up. Depending on the wood, this really doesn't take long at all. Some of your really hard woods you have to be a little bit more careful with because they'll like to chip. So you got to make sure your tools are sharp and just take your time. Make sure you're above the center line. Run up some sandpaper on it real quick. I don't have to be at my exact diameter. I just want to be pretty close to it. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a skew. I'm going to just basically go along and make sure that this thing is even all the way across. The skew will help me do this. It's a flat surface. If your skew is not sharp, this will be a painful experience. Make sure your skew is sharp. It will make a world of difference. Now what I'm using is a flush cut saw to cut the grip where I want to. Take your time, whatever you need to do. You could use your parting tool. But that's it. I like the flush cut saw because it doesn't cut as much material. Now you can see I basically glued some cork rings together. I'll post a link right here on the video on how to make a custom cork grip. But I've basically glued everything together along with the piece of wood on the end. And that's the piece with my inlet. Now what I'm doing is the hard part, sanding down all the big stuff. This is the toughest part of sanding because you're getting through all the glue. None of the surfaces are perfect. Once you start getting in there, it makes it much easier. You see I actually switched from that sanding cloth to this 80 grit sandpaper just to get through it a little quicker. The downside to 80 grit sandpaper is number one, it's sandpaper, so it's not gonna last like the sanding cloth, but you really have to do some cleanup when you're done. You can be left with pretty big gouges. Doing all the bulk of the work. As you can see here, we're coming down to shape. Um, I wanted to work on the wood a little bit more because it felt a little big in the back of the hand. So basically what I'm doing is just I'm sitting here working it with the sandpaper. Just keep working it until it feels comfortable to the hand. You want it to feel smooth. You want it to feel good. You don't want it to be bulky. Now this grip is a little bit thicker than like a standard cork grip you'd buy off the shelf. The advantage to that is, well, the customer has bigger hands, so this is going to work better for them. Once I get everything sanded down and I'm happy with it, you can see I'm getting everything where I want it to be. As far as finishing this grip, I'm going to put some spar urethane on the wood, and then I'll cork seal the front of it. Going through my sandpaper, you don't have to go above 240 really. What I'm doing here is I'm putting a little edge on the front just to give it a little bit of a taper. Makes it look really sweet. Guys, I hope you like this video. Please like and subscribe. I may have a second video showing you how to make the fighting butt on this because I'm going to make that out of ebony. Thanks for watching.